Don't pretend that you don't know what the car behind me is. Of course, this is the Toyota Supra, and since it was released, it's been something of a cult hero in Australia already. Legendary car, legendary nameplate. Forget all of the Fast and Furious nonsense. The Supra was a legend well before that movie came out. And there's one thing in common. The reason you know what this car is because we've test driven a bunch of them already. However, that one thing in common has been every one that we've tested has had an automatic transmission. Not this one. This is a manual. That's why we're so excited to drive it. Proper sports cars should be front engine, rear wheel drive, manual transmission in the middle. I've been looking forward to driving this Supra for quite some time. That is exactly what we're going to do now. We're going to test drive it on some amazing country roads, exactly where you would bring it if you owned one. We're also going to find out what it's like to live with day to day. Let's get into it. The Toyota Supra is finally available with a 6-speed manual transmission alongside the 8-speed automatic, and we're testing the most affordable GT model grade, which starts from $87,380 before on-road costs. It's the first time you've been able to buy a manual Supra in more than 2 decades. The GTS with more standard equipment starts from $97,380 before on-road costs. The Supra provides a real point of difference compared to the BMW Z4, with which it shares a platform, and to my eye is the more striking design. From any angle, at any speed, the 2023 Supra looks every inch a sports car, befitting the Supra nameplate. Exaggerated curves, scoops and vents, the Supra's design is both muscular and delicate. Highlights for mine are the tasteful rear spoiler and double bubble roof design. If the traditional sports car is front engine, rear wheel drive, the Supra wears its classical sports car credentials well. According to Toyota, the new 6-speed manual transmission is 18 kilograms lighter than the automatic and is equipped with rev-matching software, which blips the throttle on downshifts for a smoother drive, although this can be disabled in the car's sport mode. Upgrades to the 2023 Toyota GR Supra GT over its predecessor include enlarged 345mm rear brake discs, previously exclusive to the GR Supra GTS model, replacing the 2022 model's 330mm discs. Black leather remains as the Toyota GR Supra's standard interior upholstery. Under the bonnet, the GR Supra's engine is unchanged with the BMW-built 3-litre turbocharged inline 6-cylinder unit continuing to produce 285 kilowatts between 5,800 and 6,500 RPM and 500 Newton meters between 1,800 and 5,000 RPM. Toyota's suite of safety systems will also carry across to the 23 Supra, although manual variants are equipped with traditional cruise control, missing out on the radar-based adaptive cruise control fitted as standard to the automatic. When is a Toyota cabin not a Toyota cabin? Well, when it's a BMW. There might be a Toyota badge on the steering wheel here and a GR badge down here, but this is very much a BMW cabin if you are familiar with BMWs. And I do love when you get in a proper sports car like the Toyota Supra, it is driver focused. Everything about it, the seating, the visibility, the relationship of driver to the steering wheel, where the pedals are situated, the visibility. You feel like you're in a sports car. You feel like you're ready to get behind the wheel and drive. I really like all of the systems in here. The infotainment is excellent. The screen is really nicely presented up here, and it's in a place where you can see it, but it doesn't obstruct your visibility out over the road. So that's a really important thing. Thus far, during our testing, Apple CarPlay wirelessly has worked flawlessly for it, and it's very, very quick to connect. That's the other thing. So you get in the car, and almost as soon as you hit the start button, it's loaded up and it's ready to go. Some of them that are wired aren't even that quick, so that is very, very impressive. Now, you're not going to talk about a sports car without focusing on the seats, and I think Toyota, BMW, whoever it was who designed these have done a particularly good job. The trim looks very familiar to what you'd be used to if you've sat in a BMW in terms of the actual material itself, but these are comfortable. They're tall enough without being too tall. They've got enough adjustability in them, and crucially, these side bolsters, both on the base and the backrest, aren't too narrow that if you're bigger, you're going to feel like you're hunched in like that. So they've actually done a really good job of making them comfortable for a longer drive. And on our drive today, we're going to be spending a good few hours in the car doing what we're doing, as you would if you were out on a weekend road trip, for argument's sake, which you're going to want to do in a car like this. So it's crucial to me that the seats are comfortable. Really good job, and they are. Now, on the subject of driving, the reason that we've been as excited as we have to test drive this Supra is this little thing right here. That's right, this is the manual Toyota Supra, of course. And the reason we're excited is because all the previous ones we've tested, they've been automatic. Now, manual is finally available. I'm really looking forward to getting a sense of what this car is like to drive with a manual transmission. However, one thing that's immediately annoying, 2 minutes after you get in, put your hand on the gear shifter, doesn't matter where you're situated in the car, and you're going to get in the way of these two things here, which are the only cup and bottle holders in the entire vehicle. So if you've got anything taller than a really small coffee cup, you're going to be whacking it every time you change gear. And crucially, there's no bottle holders in either of the door pockets either. So that means you are limited to these two. Yes, I understand that sports cars have to have some form of compromise, but you need to understand that these are pretty much going to be not a pain in your neck, but maybe a pain in your elbow, unless you want to drive like this and keep your arm away from there. So if you've got longer arms, they're going to get in the way. However, let's not worry about that. We'll throw the water bottles in the boot for the moment. I'm really looking forward to taking a drive in this manual Supra and finding out how good this gearbox is. Let's first get driving around town out of the way, because there's no way of sugarcoating the fact that a manual transmission can be a real pain in traffic. Toyota's got form recently with high quality manuals. GR Yaris, GR Corolla, two examples. The manual gearbox in this itself is fantastic. Everybody at Drive who's tested it has said that the clutch pedal takes a bit of getting used to, but it has to be said that once you do get used to it, it's no problem. The gearbox itself, brilliant. Now, once you get out of the city and into a country area like we are now, twisty roads, windy roads, no traffic, this is a superb sports car to drive. It really is. In fact, in many ways, it's more like a Grand Tourer, because it is fast and it is engaging, but it's almost effortless. It seems very long-legged. It's a beautiful touring vehicle. It's comfortable, and it's a really, really lovely sports car to drive on roads like this. Would you be happy if you bought a Toyota Supra and you were living with it day to day? I absolutely think you would be. This car is an icon. The name is iconic, and what the Supra stands for the Toyota brand, is iconic. And I think this latest one, even though it's co-developed with BMW and is, to all extents and purposes, a BMW, is still a very, very high quality Toyota Supra. It's very, very good at being that. So I think if you buy one of these, despite some of the compromises that come with owning a sports car, this is a fantastic vehicle to spend your daily drive in. Now, of course, acceleration, which I'm just doing now, is a large part of the Supra experience, and this feels engaging no matter what you're doing or what road you're on. It's a quick car, there's no doubt about that. It's a very quick car on the right road. The ratio of the gearbox, the length of the throw, and the ratios within the gearbox itself are fantastic as well. And I kind of was expecting not to like this, but I do really appreciate the snappiness of the rev matching. If you change down a gear, like I just did then, it really is fast to blip the throttle just as you're about to put it in gear, and it works really well. So it's not a stupid gimmicky system that doesn't make any sense, and I think you're going to enjoy it if you're a sporty kind of a driver who appreciates that type of driving experience. Ride and handling. Obviously it's going to handle well. It's a sports car, it's supposed to. But for me, the ride quality is actually really impressive. Yes, it's firm, and yes, you will notice that it's a firm chassis when you're on a really bumpy road or a mismatched surface. You'll pick that up, but it's never uncomfortable. You don't bang and crash around the cabin, doesn't bottom out, it doesn't feel horrible through the suspension or through the chassis. So it's actually quite comfortable even on a bad road. You might not expect that with such a driver-focused and sports-focused sports car. But this does that quite well. And that plays into that ability of how you can live with it day to day. However, at the end of the day, the reason you're buying this car, the reason you're spending the money, is because you want an engaging performance car. And I can tell you, when you're on a road like I'm on now, you're absolutely getting it. Okay, confession time. When I first got in the Toyota Supra, I didn't love the manual transmission. Now, I almost hate myself for saying that, but I will give you one caveat. I got in the car and I drove it straight out into Sydney traffic, which is not an ideal scenario for a sports car with a manual transmission. However, the other confession I have to make, the more I drove the Supra and the further away from the city I got, the more I loved the manual transmission. The clutch pedal itself is a little bit weird to get used to. It doesn't feel the way I expected it to feel. However, once you get used to that, it's fine. You get used to it, it's normal. The transmission itself is excellent. So the gear shift itself is fantastic. It's not too long, it's not too short, stupid short. It's actually exactly where you'd want it for a car that you're driving on the road. And I started to love this manual Supra the more that I drove it. Now, I guess the question that needs to be answered is whether the trade-off of how good a manual transmission is when you get on an open road, twisty road out here in the country like we're on at the moment, is worth putting up with the pain of a manual transmission in traffic. And let's face it, doesn't matter which one of the big cities you live in, traffic in Australia these days is pretty poor. Does the trade-off live up to what you would expect? You know what? I kind of think it does. This is so much fun to drive out here on the open road and so engaging in the way that a traditional manual gearbox should be, that I almost think it's worth living with it day to day in traffic. But you've got to get out here and enjoy it. You can't get stuck in that grind Monday to Friday and not give yourself the reward on the weekend. Let us know what you think in the comments section below, as you always do. Would you buy the manual or would you stick with the auto? Because the auto is a pretty good gearbox too, although I suspect the purists among you will prefer the manual. Don't forget to hit like if you've enjoyed the video. Click on subscribe so you stay up to date with all of our latest video content and the full review of the manual Toyota Supra. That's over at Drive.com.au.